Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you jump on here live here on this Tuesday evening, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. Tonight we're going to talk some football here on the channel, college and NFL, and I'll get to that coming up here very shortly. But first, I want to go ahead and tell everybody that after 3 weeks off, I'm finally back in the wrestling ring this Saturday night. SWA Wrestling from East Denali, Georgia. It's coming up Saturday night. Doors open at 6 o'clock. Bell time is 7 o'clock. And tickets are only $5, and you can't beat that. 244 Livestock Road, East Denali, Georgia, is the physical address. Hope to see all of you that live in North Georgia, Northeast Georgia, and upstate South Carolina, and East Denali, Georgia. Saturday night. It's a very short drive if you live in North Georgia, Northeast Georgia, or upstate South Carolina. After 3 weeks off, it feels like I have not been in the wrestling ring since last year, which I have not been in the ring since last year, but it also feels like instead of 3 weeks, it feels like 3 years. But I took 3 weeks ago off for my wife and I's wedding anniversary, and then, of course, 2 weeks ago was Christmas. Then this past weekend, I had a wedding that I had to be in. So I'm finally back in the ring this upcoming weekend. Everything will be back to normal. Good evening, Austin. Glad to have you here. And good evening, Kevron. Glad to have you here. But let's start out in the NFL world. We had Black Monday, as they always call it, the day after the regular season ends when coaches get fired. But it extended into today because there was another coach that got fired today. Then, of course, there was 2 coaches that got fired in the regular season. So we have all kind of openings. Yes, I just mentioned that, Austin. SWA is coming up this Saturday night, 244 Livestock Road, East Denali, Georgia. The Cardinals fired Jonathan Gannon. Hey there, Josh. Glad to have you here. Now, the problem with the Cardinals is, like I've mentioned here on the channel numerous times, when you either sign somebody as a free agent or, draft somebody and give them a high contract, you're pretty much stuck with them because you can't just get rid of players because players make way more money than coaches do. But this is now about the 3rd coach that Kyler Murray has ran off because he sucks and he's just not good. But the Cardinals are trying to make it work because, they want him to be their franchise quarterback, and he has this huge contract. Keep firing coaches and replacing the coach, hoping that the team improves and Kyler improves, and it just does not work. So Jonathan Gannon gets fired by the Cardinals. It'll be on YouTube sometime, Austin. I don't know when, but it'll be on YouTube just like every SWA match is on the SWA YouTube channel. But I don't put them on there, so I don't know exactly how long it'll be before it's on there. But I can tell you it will be on there. Just keep checking the SWA YouTube page. Coming up a week from this Sunday, the following Sunday on the 18th, I've got Scrappy Championship Wrestling, and that show will be on the Scrappy YouTube page. And in 2 weeks from Saturday, I've got Total Aggression Wrestling. So I'm finally back to the normal style of life, getting back in a wrestling ring. The Raiders fired Pete Carroll after 1 year. Now, Pete Carroll, in my opinion, should have never been given the job because as old as he is, you knew that even if he's successful in 3 or 4 years, you're looking for another coach because of his age. But you look at the Raiders roster and their talent, there is no way Pete Carroll was going to win. Just was not going to happen. So why they hired that guy, I don't know, but I think what got him in trouble was right before the season ended, they got a player named Max Crosby that was hurt earlier in the year, but he's been cleared by doctors to play. But the Raiders' season's pretty much over with. So Pete Carroll went to Max Crosby and told him, you know, you're not going to play because, our season's pretty much over with. We're not playing for anything and you're hurt. So there's and you play. And now, granted, if he's hurt, that's one thing. But when he's been cleared by his doctors and he says he's fine, you can't tell that man he can't play because he's hurt. If he was hurt, the doctors wouldn't have cleared the man to play. So that whole situation makes zero sense. I try to watch as much as I can, Austin, like I always do. I stay so busy. I think you know that by now, but I try to watch it whenever I can. The Falcons fired Raheem Morris, and I've mentioned this numerous times. Raheem Morris was a joke of a coach. He's a terrible coach. What I can't understand is all these head coaching openings now. If you believe the rumors, supposedly a lot of the head coaching openings at these schools, the leading candidate is Raheem Morris. Why? The man has been a failure everywhere he's been a coach. Why do these teams continuously give these coaches that get fired numerous places a head coaching job? It just does not make any sense whatsoever. The Browns fired Kevin Stefanski. Now, supposedly, Kevin Stefanski might be the next head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not a huge Stefanski fan, but he's better than Arthur Smith, and he's better than Raheem Morris, so it would be a step up, but I don't think you're going too far with him. And today, the Baltimore Ravens fired John Harbaugh after 17 years. Now, we know the Ravens, came back around. They were originally the Browns, and then the Browns went away. And then, of course, the Ravens came around. Hey there, Melvin. Glad to have you here. Melvin, I am 416 years old. No, I'm just kidding. By the way, Melvin, I think it's the first time I've seen your name in the comments section. If it is your first time being here, for whatever reason made you stop by the channel tonight, thank you very much. Feel free to give the video a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends, tell your family about the channel. And appreciate that. Melvin, if you come back to this channel every day when I do a video, you'll see that I'm this way in just about every single video, and I appreciate the kind words. But there was grumblings about mid-season that either Harbaugh was going to quit and resign or be fired because him and Lamar Jackson, their relationship's kind of growing strained because I think, no, I do not, Melvin. Maybe one day I will, but right now we do not have any pets. My wife and I just don't have enough free time to, keep up with pets. And we don't want to have a pet and feel like it's been abandoned, but we both stay so busy. We just don't have time to, tend to one. But thank you for asking. But John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson's relationship had grown kind of strained because John Harbaugh's finally come to the realization that Lamar Jackson's just never going to be a consistent thrower. He's just not. And that's why the Ravens don't win the playoffs, because when they get in the playoffs, other teams realize that all they got to do is stop the Ravens' run game, and they've got a shot. And, they put 7 or 8 men in the box and make Lamar Jackson throw, and he just can't do it. And John Harbaugh finally figured that out. Not just that, but Lamar Jackson gets hurt all the time. He misses 4 or 5 games every year. And with the contract he's got, like I mentioned earlier about Kyler Murray, he's not going nowhere. So Harbaugh pretty much knew, okay, we're stuck here where we are. And yes, I do, Melvin. I thought I just mentioned my wife. If not, yes, I do have a wife and 3 kids. Thank you for asking. If you go back and watch some of my old videos, back when we had an intro video, my wife and my kids are in those videos, but you can just look on my YouTube page or YouTube screensaver where it has Ref Brandon and the Todd family is a picture of me and my wife. Last month we celebrated 14 years of marriage. I have an 11-year-old daughter and 7-year-old twin boys. It's okay, Melvin. That happens sometimes. Sometimes you have 30 folks in here watching and chatting, and sometimes you only have one. That's the good thing about YouTube is that even if folks don't watch it live, they can come back and watch it, later on. I think he might, Austin, but Jericho's 55 and he hasn't been any good in 5 years. So even if he comes back, it's only going to be for a short run. Jericho has looked really, really slow in the ring for about 4 years now, and this time he's taking off ain't going to make him get faster. Old age catches up with everybody, especially in the wrestling business. So he's not all of a sudden got faster. So he might come back, but yeah, he's a big time name, but he's way past his prime. If he does come back, it's going to be for about a year, and that's it. And then we had the Titans and the Giants, of course, firing their coaches back in the regular season now. That leaves 7 head coach openings all together. I don't know, Austin. I don't know if Jericho would ever be around long enough to do something like that. We know Jericho because of his band. He's always on again, off again, on again, off again. So if you make him Raw GM the 3-4 months out of the year that he's touring with his band, you have no GM. So I don't know if that'd be a good idea or not. It would sound great just saying it, but then 3-4 months out of the year, you ain't got a general manager because he's touring with his band. And then we have the next round of the playoffs this week. Thursday night, we have the Fiesta Bowl with Miami versus Ole Miss. That game is 7:30 Eastern time. And then Friday night, we have the Peach Bowl with Oregon versus Indiana at 7:30 Eastern time. And most people that I've heard or saw or read about think that the Peach Bowl is pretty much the national championship game, that whoever wins that game wins the whole kit and caboodle. I haven't heard anybody that thinks it's either going to be Miami or Ole Miss. Every prediction I've heard, read, and saw is either Oregon or Indiana. So for most people, the Peach Bowl coming up on Friday night is the de facto national championship. And then I want to talk about briefly some of these transfer portal players. Now, of course, we have thousands and thousands of transfer portal players, and I've already did one video where I talked about not all, but a lot of the players, at least the big-time names that were transferring. But now there's a list of the top 25 players that are transferring. Only 11 have announced their destination. So not quite half of the top 25 players that have announced they're transferring have announced where they're going. They've just said, hey, I'm leaving this school. And a couple of them were kind of obvious, and you knew right away where they were going. They just couldn't make it official till Friday. But a lot of them was kind of obvious, like Cincinnati's quarterback, Brendan Sorsby. They said back probably early November that he was transferring. He was going to go to Texas Tech, and sure enough, he's transferring. He's going to Texas Tech. And a lot of folks thought that when Rocco Becht announced he was transferring from Iowa State, that he was going to Penn State because former Iowa State coach Matt Campbell is now the head coach at Penn State, and Rocco Becht is going to Penn State. And then you had Drew Mestemaker. I think most folks thought he was going to Oklahoma State, and he is. Drew Mestemaker was the quarterback at North Texas, and of course their head coach left to go to Oklahoma State, so quarterback Drew Mestemaker follows him to Oklahoma State. We also have Omarion Miller, who is going to Arizona State. He's transferring from Colorado. I shouldn't have to tell you where these players are transferring from, because if you're a college football fan and these are the top 25 players in college football that are transferring, you should know who they are. Nick Marsh, wide receiver, transferring to Indiana. Trey White is going to Texas Tech. Melvin, I think everybody has a father. I don't know how you'd be alive if you don't have a father and a mother. So, yes, I have a father, but my dad's been dead since April of 1997. So, this April will be 29 years he's been gone. I was 12 years old when he got killed. He got killed at the age of 34. And then we have Byram Brown, another one that probably doesn't surprise anybody. Byram Brown was the quarterback at South Florida. And of course, South Florida's head coach left to go to Auburn. So Byram Brown is going to Auburn. Josh Hoover, quarterback, going to Indiana. And Ian Jeffrard, defensive tackle, is going to Texas. Caleb Hawkins, running back, going to Oklahoma State. And then Hollywood Smothers is transferring to Alabama. So 11 of the top 25 players have announced their transfer destination. So still 14 guys of the top 25 that have not committed to a new school. Of course, there's thousands of guys that are transferring. Those are just the top 25 players and the 11 that have committed to a new school. So, Melvin, I'm glad you're here. And, Melvin, I'm glad you're asking questions because I don't mind answering them, because a lot of people on YouTube try to come on and just, focus on whatever their actual video is about, whether it's sports or entertainment or, whatever the case may be. And they never mention family. They never mention kids or anything. So you don't know nothing about them. So I try to let people know who I am and try to not hide a whole lot. And I don't give specific details about a whole lot. But as far as, being asked questions, I don't mind answering questions like, do I have a wife? Yes, I do. I have a beautiful, wonderful, lovely wife. I have 3 kids, 11-year-old daughter, and 7-year-old twins. So come back, Melvin, some other time. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And Melvin, I try to tell everybody that's new on here, I don't do a lot of social media, but I do have Facebook because of wrestling. So if you're ever on Facebook, feel free to chat with me on Facebook. And as long as you're logical and you can talk and be normal, I will talk with anybody. So appreciate you being on here, Melvin. And I'm easy to find on Facebook. So if you ever get on there, please look me up and I will chat with you on there. I stay very, very busy. I may not see your comment right away, but I promise you when I see it, I will respond. I don't ignore anybody as long as you're logical. Don't come on there and talk stupid. But as long as you can act civil and be civil, I will talk with anybody. So let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What generation does Forrest Gump belong to? Gen A. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over.